What if every empire was already doomed to collapse from the moment it was created, not because of war, not because of enemies, but because of its own system? Throughout history, some civilizations have seemed unstoppable. Massive armies, endless wealth, advanced technology, powerful leaders, systems so vast, so organized, that they feel unbreakable. At their height, they don't feel temporary, they feel permanent. Cities expand, trade flows, armies move across continents. Generations are born, live, and die, believing one thing: this system will last forever. And yet, every empire collapses. The Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, the Mongol Empire. Each once controlled vast territories, each commanded millions, each shaped the world, and yet all of them disappeared. So the question is not just, why did they fall? The real question is, were they ever stable at all? Because if history shows us anything, it's this: power is never permanent. Even the strongest systems carry the seeds of their own failure. Welcome to History AI, a place where we explore the most powerful turning points in history and break them down through the lens of systems, patterns, and intelligence. Because today, for the first time in history, we can do something no empire ever could. We can simulate collapse. We can model systems. We can analyze failure before it happens. And when we do, a pattern begins to appear. Empires don't collapse overnight. They don't disappear suddenly. Instead, they begin to fail, long before anyone notices. At first, the signs are small, almost invisible. A delayed payment, a corrupt official, a weakened border. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent. But inside the system, these signals connect. They accumulate. They reinforce each other. And slowly, a pattern begins to form. From the outside, everything still looks stable. Markets function, armies move, cities thrive. But inside, pressure is building, silently, relentlessly. Now imagine this: a system so large that every part depends on another. A decision in one region affects another. A failure in one place spreads to the next. At first, this makes the system stronger, more efficient, more connected. But over time, it creates something else: dependence, fragility. Because when everything is connected, nothing can fail alone. Picture it: a network of roads stretching across continents, trade moving constantly, information flowing, everything working perfectly. Now imagine one delay, one disruption, one failure. At first, nothing happens, but then it spreads, slowly, then faster, until the system begins to feel it. And this is how collapse starts. Not with one event, but with pressure, building layer by layer. Take the Roman Empire. For centuries, it dominated the known world. Roads connected distant regions. Orders traveled across continents. A soldier in Britain could receive commands from Rome. A trader in Egypt could sell goods across the empire. It wasn't just power, it was coordination, a system ahead of its time. But over time, that system began to strain. Imagine defending a border that never ends. Cold northern forests, endless deserts, mountain ranges, rivers. Every kilometer requires attention, resources, control, and slowly, the cost increases. Administration becomes harder. Decisions take longer. Governors gain power. Some remain loyal, others don't. Taxes rise, corruption spreads, trust declines. At the same time, politics becomes unstable. Emperors rise and fall. Some rule for years, others for months. Some are overthrown, some are assassinated. To a human observer, these are isolated events, but to a system, they are signals of instability. And when those signals align, the system changes. Meanwhile, pressure builds at the edges, not organized armies, but moving populations, searching for land, resources, opportunity, and suddenly, the empire must respond everywhere at once. And this is where the pattern becomes clear. Empires don't collapse because of one failure. They collapse because of many: economic strain, military pressure, political instability, social division. Individually, each problem is manageable. Together, they become overwhelming. This is what modern systems theory calls systemic failure. And here's where everything changes, because once a system becomes fragile, collapse doesn't happen slowly. It feels sudden. For decades, everything looks stable. Then suddenly, everything changes. A border collapses, a city falls, a leader disappears, and a system can no longer recover. But the collapse didn't start there. It started years earlier, hidden, building, waiting. The Mongol Empire faced a different problem. It expanded faster than any empire in history, but expansion created distance. Distance created fragmentation, and fragmentation destroyed unity. The Persian Empire remained powerful, but it faced something else: an opponent who understood systems. Alexander the Great didn't attack strength, he attacked structure. He moved faster, he struck at weak points, and then control was lost. And once the system broke, the empire followed, which leads to a powerful insight. Empires don't collapse when they are weak. They collapse when they can no longer manage their own complexity. And complexity is inevitable. The larger the system, the more efficient it becomes, but also the more fragile it becomes. And this is where the story becomes something else. Because today, we are building systems more complex than anything in history. Global supply chains, digital networks, financial systems, energy grids, all connected, all dependent, which means the same patterns may still apply. So, what do you think? Are empires destined to collapse? Or could intelligence, human or artificial, change that outcome? And if we can predict collapse, could we prevent it? Or would intervention create new risks? Because sometimes, collapse is not just failure, it's transformation, a reset, a moment where something new begins. History shows us something remarkable. Human civilizations are powerful, but they are also fragile. Every empire, no matter how strong, exists within limits. And those limits eventually matter, because history tells us that Rome fell in the year 476. But what does that actually mean? Was there a final battle, a dramatic ending, a clear moment where everything stopped, or something else? Because in reality, the end of the Roman Empire did not feel like collapse. It felt like a normal day, a young emperor sitting on a throne inside a system that had already failed, and no one fully realized it yet. So, what really happened in those final moments? And why did one of the greatest empires in history end so quietly? That is exactly what we explore in the next video.